So, with the release of John Podesta's emails by WikiLeaks, there's been several bombshells that have come to light. So, for example, we saw collusion between Clinton's campaign and various journalists. We see collusion between Clinton's campaign and the Department of Justice during her FBI investigation. So, you would think that this would be a huge story that is plastered all over the news, right? Not exactly. So if you look at the mainstream media and their coverage, here's an example of what they're talking about.
Donald Trump loves a beauty pageant. And by his own admission, he was no stranger backstage while owning parts of 3 different pageants for nearly 2 decades.
So that's just one small example of their wall-to-wall coverage of Donald Trump. Now here's what they're saying about the WikiLeaks scandal. Alright, look, I'm being a little bit unfair because they have mentioned it, but their coverage is very bad. What they're saying is that, it's not that big of a deal. Everything's copacetic. There's really nothing that is huge that came out of this. So here's an example from CNN.
It's a drip, drip, drip of distraction, with campaign chair John Podesta's hacked emails now being released on a daily schedule by Julian Assange, trying to meddle with the U.S. election. No bombshells, but a revealing look at Clinton's strategy.
See, there's no bombshells according to CNN because they're directly implicated in it. One of their journalists, Donna Brazil, who shouldn't even be a journalist if you work within the DNC, well, she's implicated in feeding Hillary Clinton questions before a town hall. So, of course, you want to downplay this because you are directly guilty. So, you've been discovered. You've been caught with your pants down, CNN, so of course you don't think there's any bombshells. Now, honestly, what's crazy is that as egregious as that coverage is, there's even worse headlines about this scandal. So, for example, one Vox headline reads, WikiLeaks reveals John Podesta's secret for making creamy risotto. So they're literally mocking the release of John Podesta's emails, showing, there's nothing to be said here. Anyone who's making a big fuss about it, they're just irrational. This is the kind of shit that you're going to see in the emails. You're not going to find evidence that her campaign is colluding with the Department of Justice, which would be brazen corruption. You're not going to find media collusion. You're just going to find recipes about risotto. That's the tone that Vox is using to not cover, I'm not even going to call it coverage, to mock the release of John Podesta's emails. Now, that's one way to spin it, but the Washington Post, here's how they're spinning it. Scandal, WikiLeaks reveals Hillary Clinton to be, gasp, reasonable. And it reads, with a level of self-awareness unimaginable in her opponent, Miss Clinton described herself in one speech as kind of far removed from the ordinary American struggles because of her newfound wealth, and suggested she was making a conscious effort to compensate for that. In other talks, she said she really admires even ideological opponents willing to run for office amid the toxicity of modern politics. She noted correctly that the optimal situation for the United States is 2 sensible, moderate, pragmatic parties. She also favored the bipartisan Simpson-Bowles framework for deficit reduction, in which entitlement reform would be traded for progressive tax increases. They're talking about cutting Social Security there, just to forewarn you what they're doing. And she offered an astute, historically informed discussion of the challenges of extending healthcare coverage at an affordable cost. This whole episode illustrates that point. Miss Clinton kept the speeches under wraps out of fear that they would be distorted for political purposes by her populist foes. Alas, that fear was amply justified in this populistic, polarized environment, as the manufactured uproar over their release proves. The fact that Miss Clinton's eminently reasonable and open-minded words regarding the issues and her opponents are being treated as scandalous is the real scandal. Now, this is the editorial board of the Washington Post. They signed off on this and published it. They're saying that there's no scandals here. The fact that she takes public and private positions and lies and deceives the American public when she's supposed to be representing them, because let me remind everyone, this is a democratic republic, there's no scandal there. The fact that she's out of touch but claims to be fighting for us, that's literally her campaign headline, fighting for us, when she knows she's out of touch, isn't that a little bit deceitful? Don't you think that's at least somewhat disingenuous? And with all the other revelations that have come out that expose corruption with the Clinton Foundation and her campaign and the Department of Justice, you think that she's reasonable after all that? See, the only way that you could spin it this way is if you're entirely biased and you have an agenda. You have an agenda right here, and it's very clear. So the takeaway is that if you're really looking to find out about WikiLeaks and what's in John Podesta's emails, Don't tune in to CNN. Don't tune in to MSNBC. You can tune in to Fox News, but you can't really trust them either, because even if they may cover this, well, they're the propaganda wing of the Republican Party, so they might try to delegitimize WikiLeaks by trying to find something out of nothing. See, when independent media outlets like myself and TYT Politics and Let the Madness Begin, when we comb through these emails, we're going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and when we find something that looks suspicious, we read it multiple times. We go through it. We make sure that we're not trying to make something out of nothing, because when you do that, you delegitimize yourself. So you really have to be careful about Fox News' coverage. But nonetheless, they're at least mentioning it. So this is a really huge scandal. Okay, but all these media outlets, they're trying to spin it and make it seem as though, well, people are just making something out of nothing. No, if it was nothing, then we wouldn't make anything out of it. WikiLeaks also released voicemails sent to the DNC, and nobody made anything out of it because there wasn't actually anything in there. So we don't cover everything. We cover something that's legitimate, and this is certainly legitimate. And the fact that you are refusing to cover it and even mock it shows that you're illegitimate. You are not worried about objective journalism. You're in the tank for Hillary Clinton, and you don't want to do anything to harm Hillary Clinton's campaign. All you want to do is talk about Donald Trump. Well, that's fine. Cover Donald Trump. There's a lot of scandals there, but also cover Hillary Clinton's scandals as well. Be objective. So this is incredibly troubling. I mean, we have a media that is complicit in Hillary Clinton's corruption, and now they're mocking people for wanting to dig through John Podesta's emails that were released by WikiLeaks that do, in fact, have bombshell revelations. So let me just remind you that during the primary, they said that we had our tinfoil hats on and we were conspiratorial when we claimed that the DNC was biased against Bernie Sanders, and then the initial batch of DNC emails revealed that we were correct. So if they're saying we're crazy again, actually really think, who's the crazy one? Because we were right before, so why aren't we right again? We see the evidence with our very own eyes. So do you. But you're biased. You don't care about the truth. You don't care about objective reality. You just care about helping Hillary Clinton, and you're not willing to jeopardize her getting elected. So you're willing to sacrifice journalism for her electoral prospects. That's not true journalism.